A historic day here. President-elect Trump, the first former commander-in-chief sentenced for a felony conviction. The judge gave him a, quote, unconditional discharge. No jail time, no fines, no probation. The president-elect appearing remotely on screen with his attorney, Todd Blanche. He was convicted of falsifying business records over payments connected to Stormy Daniels that were logged as legal expenses, which he explained today, yes, and that's why we called them legal expenses, because non-disclosure agreements are not illegal. They're agreements entered into by two parties. So he said he did nothing wrong. Here's a little bit of what the president-elect said.
It's been a political witch hunt. It was done to damage my reputation so that I'd lose the election, and obviously that didn't work. And the people of our country got to see this firsthand because they watched the case in your courtroom. They got to see this firsthand, and then they voted, and I won.
So prosecutors say there was overwhelming evidence to support the verdict. Watch this.
The jury necessarily found unanimously that the defendant falsified 34 separate entries in his business records with the intent to defraud, which included an intent to commit or conceal a conspiracy to promote his own election by unlawful means.
Judge Merchan did not require the prosecutors to say what the underlying conspiracy or crime was that they were accusing President Trump of committing. So that really lifted a huge burden off of the prosecution in terms of what they had to prove in the courtroom. With me now, Kerri Urbahn, Fox News legal editor and former counselor to Attorney General Bill Barr, who was at the courthouse today. Kerri was, not Bill Barr. Jason Chaffetz, former House Oversight Committee chairman and Fox News contributor, and Robert Wolf, former economic advisor to President Obama, founder and CEO of 32 Advisors and a Fox News contributor. Kerri, you were down there today. What's your biggest takeaway, and what do you think happens in terms of appeal here? Obviously, President-elect Trump would love to expunge his record of this.
Well, I think Donald Trump has a pretty good chance on appeal, given the amount of reversible error that just permeated this case. And I also, what I took away today was Donald Trump continues to be his best communicator. He is such an effective speaker. And you mentioned this in your opening, Martha, but he said it very simply. My accountant characterized legal expenses, payments to my lawyers, as legal expenses, and that's why I'm indicted. And he's not wrong. And, he talked about Matthew Colangelo, who was a top official at the Department of Justice. He had a prime spot there, a spot that everybody wants because it typically leads to like very big jobs that pay a lot of money. He left that to join up with Alvin Bragg to go after Donald Trump there. One thing that also struck me, though, was Judge Juan Merchan talked about how Donald Trump was not treated any differently than any other criminal in the building, which, there's a respect issue there that I took a little offense with. But when he said that, I thought, how can you possibly say that with a straight face? Not treated any differently? Alvin Bragg ran on getting Donald Trump. Alvin Bragg manipulated the statute of limitations to revive the case. Alvin Bragg converted misdemeanors into felonies in a way that has never been done in the state of New York. And to your point earlier, Judge Merchan, you allowed the jury to convict this person, and we still don't know what the underlying crimes are. He doesn't either. So, no, I do not think that is like everybody else, as much as you would like to say so.
Yeah. Robert, he talked about the fact that the president-elect believed that this helped him in the end because it was really a very bright spotlight on a situation that I think a lot of people looked at and said it didn't smell right. It felt unfair.
I mean, I was never a supporter of this case. I thought the Stormy Daniels case, so the idea that people were talking prison was ridiculous. I surprised that New York City went through with it. And yeah, it definitely helped him because I think he, as Kerri said, he's his own best communicator, and we wake up to him, we go to sleep to him, and he's rent-free in our head. And, I would just be, as a staunch Democrat, I would just tell my fellow Democrats and some of the other cable shows, the idea that they're just highlighting the convicted felon part, I think is ridiculous. I think we should make sure we respect the office of the presidency and call him who he is.
And we know that message failed with voters because they even dropped using it. I thought we were going to hear that he was a convicted felon right up until Election Day, but it became quite clear that they were like, okay, ixnay on that message. It's not working for anybody. I talked to a former assistant DA in Manhattan. He said the only time we ever used an unconditional discharge was a case that really should have been dismissed or never brought in the first place. It's a fig leaf to cover up what we knew shouldn't have happened in the first place.
No, this is a political witch hunt. They got a headline. They didn't get anything else. And the opportunity cost. all the things that are going on here in New York City, that's what you're prosecuting?
Yeah.
That time with the judge in front of a jury and everything, that costs a lot of money. And all the other cases that couldn't be prosecuted, this should have never been brought. It is an embarrassment, and the people of New York better wake up. And they need, if they want different results, they're going to have to elect somebody else.
Yeah.
Because this was a witch hunt.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see the coasts, New York and California, given what the experience of living in those places is right now, and what happens as they come up on new governor elections, mayoral elections. It's going to be pretty fascinating to watch. Great to have all of you with us. Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.